The next thing to look at are documents. So to create a document, you click on New. And documents can be Google Documents, which is just like a Microsoft Word document, Sheets, which are just like spreadsheets, and Slides, which are just like PowerPoints. We will look at each one individually. There are many other ones which we will discuss more later. So let's look at a Google document. So this is a blank document. Here I can say Tyler's document, for example. And this is pretty simple. You know how Microsoft Word works, right? An interesting organizational feature is heading 1 and heading 2 and heading 3. You can see everything here for easier access. Now, what makes Google Documents so useful? Number one, you can share them with people. So if I share this, I can open it up on my phone or on someone else's computer. So I have it open right now. And if I type, you will actually see So essentially, your Google document is your whiteboard that you use throughout the entire lesson. Everything that you write, any useful language or any grammar points or vocabulary, the student will see instantly. A couple of considerations for Google Documents. Number one, if your student is using a tablet, they probably won't be able to see you and the document at the same time. So you might have to share your screen instead if you want the student to see you and the document. Number two, it's quite impractical to access on a phone. It's only useful on your phone if you want to study on the go. So maybe if you're on the bus to school, or if you're just waiting for someone and you want to read the notes from your teacher's last lesson. That's the only reason I encourage students to use Google Documents on their phone. However, sometimes students don't have computers with them. If they have a tablet, I usually recommend them to access the documents on the tablet and then call in using Skype or Zoom on their phone so that they can keep both screens in front of them and they can see me and the document at the same time. So a few more considerations. Clearly, it's just a text document, so you can't really draw. You have a few options. One, you can insert a drawing, but this is a little bit clumsy. It's kind of hard to draw here because you don't exactly have a pencil or a pen. If you have a tablet, you can hook it up as an additional one, but it's usually quite time consuming. So what I tend to do is I only use this feature if I want to put a Klein in my document in order to show the differences between vocabulary. Remember, you need to stretch it when it comes. It always comes out small. So for example, if I wanted to teach, etc., right? But if you want to put a picture, for example, remember that you've got the whole world at your fingertips with Google Images, and oftentimes it's much easier and faster just to copy and paste an image. A few other things you can do with Google Documents. You can highlight. Maybe you want to bring some kind of language into their attention. You can also use Google Documents to control the focus of your learners. So one problem that often happens with online learning is the teacher shares the screen and it's overwhelming. For example, this. You want to introduce a new topic to your learner and you share the screen. There's two ways you can do it. One, you can zoom and change the focus of individual things. But then if you also want to prepare other parts of the book at the same time while the learner is talking about something, you might not want to do this. And if you want to make sure that they have a record of the textbook that was discussed next to the useful language, so for example, if you have some useful language about crowds that you're discussing with this image here, you can actually put them together in the document. So one of the best things to do is you have a digital copy of the textbook that the learner has a physical copy of, and you don't ask the learner to open the page and look at it all. It's a bit overwhelming. You can just drop a couple of photos in front of the learner, one at a time, or maybe if you wanted to do several at a time, it's even possible like this too. You can even put them all down in front of the learner and ask him or her to express his opinion on some of these issues. You can very easily resize the document as well during the lesson. So if you, for example, just want to focus on this picture and that picture and compare and contrast the issues that might be related in them, you can do that, and then you can shift the focus over here. So essentially, Google Drive allows you to spotlight various segments of the book, whether it's pictures, exercises, pieces of text. You can also, if there's a difficult question in a reading passage, for example, you can get the students to focus on one paragraph in order to try and find the answer to that. So the benefit of the document is that it keeps everything unified. The pieces of the textbook that you're working on and the language from the whiteboard all stick together. If the student has the physical book in front of him or her and you write just the language on the document, how does the student know when he or she is reviewing that this language is related to that picture, for example? So keep it all in front of them so that they can understand how it's connected. Another useful feature is suggesting. So when someone is viewing the document, they can't see it if they don't have editing permission. But someone who has editing permission will see it in green. If you want to keep your words separate from a student's work, for example, a writing assignment, you can just suggest. Then it will come as a comment. Just make sure that your students don't reject it or it will disappear. Next, we're going to look at sheets. Sheets are exactly like you would imagine them to be, spreadsheets. And spreadsheets are not just for numbers, they're not just for accountants. Actually, teachers can use them too. We will look at a few different techniques for using these in the classroom and some lesson plans that could implement spreadsheets. But for now, I just want you to see that it is exactly the same thing, where you have cells and you can merge the cells if you want. So that basically means you can combine them just like that. You can add a row, and it's basically the same as any spreadsheet. We'll get into this in a little bit more detail later. Another feature is Google Slides, which is a presentation. Now, the benefits of Google Slides are that anyone can look at them. You can share them and work on them as a class project. The disadvantages are the design is a little bit limited if you compare it to Keynote or PowerPoint. However, you can kind of modify the slides as you go. It's useful for a group of students working on perhaps a project if they wanted to do a group presentation about some kind of thing that they've been learning lately. You can get them to collaborate on some slides together. And it works exactly the same way.